Assalamu alaikum. Hi everyone, this is going to be a talk through video. I'm just going to talk you through this curry that I cooked, which is a lamb and white radish curry. We call this Gosht and Mula in Bengali. I didn't actually plan to film this video, but I thought I would just show you what I do so that you can try it out for yourself. So I'm using a pressure cooker here, and to the pressure cooker I've roughly chopped about 3 onions and I've added that in. I've added about 800 grams of washed and drained lamb meat, and there, as you can see, I've just added about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Now adjust the salt to your preference. You can use less and adjust it afterwards in your cooking if you prefer. Then you want to go ahead and add about 1 teaspoon of crushed garlic. I think I've added about 1.5 teaspoons there. Obviously adjust it to your preference. And I'm also going to be adding about 1.5 teaspoons of crushed ginger. So it's really important that I point out to you that if it's your first time using a pressure cooker, you need to top up the ingredients with some water at this point. I don't actually add any extra water because I'm so used to using my pressure cooker that I know how long I can cook the meat in there for before all of the liquid evaporates. So if you're unsure, add about 1/2 to 1 pint of water just to make sure that you're on the safe side. After you've added everything, I've just gone in and added some whole spices there, some bay leaves, some cardamom pods and some cinnamon sticks. Give it a good mix and let it cook for about 30 minutes. Now obviously everybody has a different preference for how they like their lamb meat to be. Some people like it really firm, some people like it tender, falling off the bone. So experiment if you do invest in a pressure cooker and find out what timing suits you. If you cook it for 30 minutes and you think that's okay, then that's fine. But if you want to actually cook it for longer, by all means do so. Now in the video here I was actually releasing the pressure from the pressure cooker. You have to remember that a pressure cooker builds up a lot of steam inside, so you can't just whip off the lid whenever you feel like it. You've got a switch there that you have to lock before you actually turn the gas on, and you have to make sure that you actually let all of that steam out before you remove the lid, which is what I was doing here. So once you've actually managed to let all the steam out, be careful, take off the lid, and you want to check how firm or how tender your meat is at this point. So once you've removed the lid from the pressure cooker, you want to actually give everything a good mix and make sure that the lamb is cooked to your liking. My lamb was nice and tender and the onions were nice and soft, so I transferred everything to a normal saucepan. And this is how I use my pressure cooker. I don't actually use the pressure cooker to actually fully cook the dish. I only use it to tenderize the meat up to the point where I can start adding my oil and spices. And as you can see there, I've just gone ahead and added some oil. I've added about 3 serving spoons, and now I'm ready to add my spices. So start by adding 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder, 2 teaspoons of Raja mixed curry powder. Now you can use whatever mixed curry powder you normally use at home. It doesn't have to be Raja. I just find that Raja adds a really nice colour to my dishes. I also use Gosht mixed curry powder, but on this occasion I didn't. And that is 1 teaspoon of chilli powder going in, 1 teaspoon of coriander powder, which is also dhania or dhania, however you pronounce it, and 1 teaspoon of cumin powder, which is also zira or jira, depending on how you pronounce it. And my secret ingredient for this recipe is phoron. This is what we call it in Bengali. It's also called panch phoron in Indian, I believe. And all it is a mix of 5 seeds. I think it's fenugreek, fennel, nigella seeds, cumin seeds, and one more that I can't think of off the top of my head. But you buy the seeds mixed all together in a packet, and it's called phoron, and you can get it in most Asian grocery stores. And all I do is I bring it home and I grind it into a spice in my spice mill and add 1 teaspoon of that to your curries, and oh my god, it just changes the aroma and the taste, and it's lovely. Now pop the lid back onto your saucepan and let the spices and the oil and all of the lamb cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. You just want everything to fry really well. And in the meantime, what you want to do is start preparing your white radish. So as you can see, I've peeled the radish there and I'm just cutting it in half, and you want to keep the actual slices fairly big, because once it's cooked it actually gets really soft. So as you can see, I've kept the pieces fairly chunky, and up until you need it, you want to just soak it in some cold water. So leave it in a bowl soaked with cold water until you're actually ready to cook it. Add it to the curry. So at this point, all we're doing is just ensuring that our spices fry really well with the lamb in that oil, and you want to make sure that you come along every so often and you give the curry a stir, just to ensure that nothing is actually burning and nothing is sticking to the bottom of the pan, because that does tend to happen at this stage. A lot of the moisture evaporates, and as you can see, I've just added a little bit of cold water just to make sure that the curry is a little bit loose and not too dry, so that it doesn't end up burning. Give everything a good mix and just let that kind of like fry for, like I said, 10 to 15 minutes. Now in Bengali we call this stage of cooking tarhari buna. So all you're doing is you're letting the spices kind of like really cook through, I guess. And on this occasion I was noticing that my ground spices weren't kind of like cooking through really well. You should notice that they get finer and finer until they almost disappear, and that wasn't happening. And you might find that you need to add a little bit more oil, and that's why I added a little bit more oil. Don't be afraid to add in the middle of your cooking oil if you need to add a little bit more spice at this stage. If for any reason the curry doesn't look colourful enough and you feel like it's a little bit bland, go ahead and add a little bit more, it's fine, but just let it cook until you're happy with it. And as you can see, you can't see any visible bits of onions here, and that's what the masala should look like before you're ready to add your white radish. And I was happy that my masala was done, so I actually went and got my white radish and I started to add that in. So once you've drained all of the white radish pieces, you want to just go ahead and add those to the saucepan, and make sure that you give everything a good mix. Make sure that you coat all of the pieces with some of the mushla, the masala, so that this will season and also colour the actual vegetable. You can use anything else, you don't have to use white radish. I was just showing you that this is how I cook this curry. You can use potato, you can use cabbage, you can use anything that you like. But once the spices have fried and cooked, like I said, until you can't see it visibly anymore, you then want to go ahead and add your vegetable. Now pop the lid on that, and you want that to cook for about 10 minutes, I'd say, until the white radish starts looking a little bit like it's kind of like cooked through and a bit translucent, I would say. So every now and again, like you did before, come along and give the curry a stir and make sure that nothing's burning, because it can happen at this stage because there's very little liquid in the pot, and just make sure that everything's cooking through nicely. So once you've made sure that everything's been stirred really well and nothing is burning, you're going to again cover this and let it cook for a few more minutes. Here I'm coming along again, I'm just showing you the various stages, and here I've come along just to check on what the white radish looks like at this stage and give the curry another mix. And it's still looking fairly like part cooked but not fully cooked, so I just gave it another good mix, made sure that nothing was burning, and then I popped the lid back on again for a few more minutes. Right, at this point I could see that all of my oil had separated from the curry. As you can see, it's bubbling around the edges of the saucepan here, and that's usually a really good indicator of when your curry is almost ready to have the gravy added to it. Now if you like a lot of gravy, add as much water as you like, but just don't thin it out too much. I don't actually like it to be too runny, because I find that white radish tends to make a curry really soupy anyway, because there's a high water content in the white radish. So I try and add as little water as I can, but enough obviously to make it look like a curry with gravy in it. So add your water, give it a good little shake around, and pop the lid back on and let that boil for about 15 minutes. So it's entirely your choice if you want to add some whole green chillies at this stage. I do like to add them whole and not sliced, just to keep out any heat. So after about 15 or 20 minutes of letting your curry boil, your curry will be cooked, and it should look like it does in the video there. You will notice that the oil rises to the top of the curry and the curry has a really lovely vibrant colour. Also notice how the white radish doesn't look so white anymore, it looks quite translucent, and that's when you know the radish has fully cooked. I like to take a clean kitchen towel at this point, and I like neatening up the inside of my saucepan or wok or whatever I'm cooking in. You'll have seen me do this if you've watched my other video, which I will link down below. If you want a full list of ingredients used in this recipe, make sure you visit the website www.afeliaskitchen.com. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. At this point I usually garnish my curry with some coriander, and as you can see in the video there, I'm just chopping some fresh coriander. If you like chilies and you want to add a little bit more heat, you can add some sliced green chilies too. I like to turn the heat off to make sure that I don't overcook the coriander, because I find it loses its nice vibrant colour and it loses the aroma. So add this at the very last minute. Once you've garnished that, let it sit for 5 minutes and then you can serve with some plain rice. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.